Welcome to the third episode of Time with Tea, and thank you so much for choosing to spend some time with me. Now, I am still walking down that memory lane while we do the countdown to book number 30 for Conversations with the Author. Let's continue. For book number 13, we had Motherhood Honesty, edited by Victorine Mbongshu and Professor Deborah Ballard Ray, all the way from USA. So this is a collection of stories of women who were sharing their motherhood journey. There were stories of a woman who does not have a relationship with her own mother, but has a beautiful relationship with her children. There's a story of a woman who did not understand the culture relations of how to raise an infant. I mean, there's one story in here that really touched my heart, where a woman gave birth to a baby, and then that newborn baby, as tradition dictates, would scrub them. Well, something harder than that actually, would scrub the baby, and you have to get it to read it and fully understand, because I can't explain everything here. It is available at the South African State Theatre kiosk. For book number 14, we had Invisible Strings by Naledi Mashishi. This is another beautiful South African story that I feel like it's not told enough. It's about a little girl who has a gift, and it takes the family a very long time to understand her gift or even realize it, and then they go through trials and tribulations to get through to understand it. At the very end, I don't want to give it away, but the end is so sweet. It's so heart filling and soul hugging. I wish I can tell you what the ending is, but go get it. And think about it, she's also published internationally, but with a different cover. I would actually like to get another cover just to see just to entertain the bookwormy in me. Book number 15, we had We Are Going to Kill Each Other Today, the Marikana story. I still can't bring myself to really talk about that very much, because it was the hardest conversation I've ever had. So let's move on to book number 16. In a Killer Shadow by Immaculate Qindi. This is, I don't want to use the word brave to describe her, because I always feel like once you say somebody's brave, then you take away from everything that she is doing and what she's about. It takes away the representation of the makings of her. But her dad, like the title said, in a killer shadow. So her dad is a killer. It's available at the South African State Theatre kiosk. Yo, Ragoa. That's all I can say about that. And then for book number 17, we had The Wayfarer's Hints. If you've read this book and if you have watched Outlaws, don't you feel like relativity by Professor Zixenta? I've never been so nervous to have a conversations with anybody else, but I mean, get Professor Zixenta, but then he is so funny. I never expected him to be that funny, but he's hilarious, and he is candid, and he calls it like it is. So go get it. For book number 18, I feel like I keep saying everybody's my favorite, but Lucas Styles Ledwaba is legit my favorite person. Good general, he's like my favorite person. And he was also a returnee, because he also contributed in writing the Marikana story, We Are Going to Kill Each Other Today. So he was there for that conversation, and I had him also for a desire to return to the ruins. And this time there was no panel, it was just him and I having conversation. And if I tell you about somebody who is in touch with what our feet touch on the ground, whatever that thing is called, I know there's a word for it, I'll find it, But whatever it is that you feel when you step on the ground, that connection, I know it's called being grounded, but I'm not looking for that word. There's a much bigger word. It explains this guy. It explains this body of work. Lucas is so intelligent, and his strength speaks for itself, because he also speaks with so much conviction, because he sounds so real. There's no way he cannot be genuine. And he's light. He's as deep as he is. He's also very light. He's so easy to get along with. And did I mention that he was late on the day of his conversation? Well, just 2 minutes late. It wasn't that bad. 2 minutes. But he knows how I feel about him and how I feel about this work. Another one that you must just go get. And we had for book number 19, From Boyhood to Manhood by Kabelo Chabalala. Now a 2-time author, because he has another book out. This is the only book that my son read and finished. Like, the only book. That says a lot. And I will leave it there. Again, you will get it. Kosast kiosk. Go get it. And congratulations, Kabelo, on 8 years of your young men's movement. He has a young men's movement that just turned 8 years this year. So he does a lot of work when it comes to, the boy from boyhood to manhood, the conversation about the boy child. He really pays great attention to that subject that we don't talk enough about. It's another easy read. I mean, if my son was 11 at the time, and he read it and finished it, so you might want to get it for your son. Oh, and I remember the CEO of the South African State Theatre, Dr. Smoing Kiza, bought 2 extra copies. And then for book number 20, we had the love story of all love stories. Every day is an opening night by Des and Dawn. And when I say that Oscar award winning love stories and movies are made of, this is the stuff that those movies are made of. I wish that this can be turned into a musical. I wish that this could be turned into a series. I wish that this could be turned into a movie, because what is in here is like a Bible of beautiful, beautiful stories and sharing. And to have Days there without Dawn was something that I will treasure forever and never ever forget, because I appreciated his time, and I knew how hard it was going to be for him to get through it, but he did it. And it would have been even easier for him to say, you know what, I can't make it, I can't do this. But he came and he spoke about the love of his life, and we spoke about the Naledi Awards and how they came about. We also spoke about how they met, how him and Dawn met. But then it's also here, it's all here in the book. It's all in here. And I'm hugging this right now because in my head I remember how Des was with me, and I remember at the end he even honored me, and I'm like, you don't have to do that, you don't have to do that, this is about you and Dawn. And he was just so, it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming. So yeah, everything about that day was my favorite. And to have this be my 20th, I mean, come on. So now we are going to 21. Tidi Mongwega Prison Love. This story is both funny and sad all at the same time. I mean, this girl fell in love with the prisoner, and when he got out, he did what prisoners do. Book number 21. Here comes the Gay King. Listen, if you want spice and gossip and drama and hierarchy and families falling apart and coming together, this is where it's at. Juicy Elengava, Juicy Elinka. I also loved the panel, and I also loved Dimakazo so much. He is an advocate of justice and human rights. I mean, he is a dad, and he's raising a child with disabilities, and he is fighting for her rights every single day. It is admirable to watch. And I get poise, so okay, get poise. Get poise like his words, not mine. Book number 23, another one of my favorite people on this earth. He is the one half of the dynamic duo. If you are familiar with the dynamic duo, we had at the South African State Theatre 2 lovely presenters, a male and a female. The male penned down a collection of short stories and poetry. He is the first guest to ever bring me a bunch of flowers. The first. And he still stands unbeaten because no one has ever done it. This is a hint. Flowers. He also wrote me a personal note, handwritten. He didn't type it. So let me just read a little bit, like at the last part. Good, I'm going to share the juicy parts because that's between him and I. He said, this moment for me is massive because for the very first time I'll be in conversation with someone who has read my book. Moving along ever so swiftly. Boy on the Run, award winning. He's been winning some awards for this book. He's been winning a bit of, he's doing very, very well. Welcome, Mandla Lishiva, excuse me. His story is, I don't even know how to say it. I want to say it's his story is sad, ne? Mara, the way that he overcame everything and how he's doing now is incredible. I mean, this boy at this young age, he still looks like this, but he's not this young now. Now he's grown. He walked into a room and saw his mom immediately just after she was shot in the head. So when you see something like that, yeah. But he is doing amazing. Get the book. Good morning, fish. Book number 25. If you are familiar with molo fish, this is what the story is about. So book number 26, I'm gonna skip right through that. It was It Could Have Been Love. Yeah, let's just move on from It Could Have Been Love. Book number 27, An Angel's Demise. Let me tell you what Sunyati did in here. When I was reading this book and I was going through, when you read, you see this side of the book getting bigger and then this side getting smaller. I was reaching that point and then the story was not getting together and I was like, Sue, you better not leave me hanging because it is too juicy. So why are there few pages and the story is still far from complete in my head? But the twist that she throws you with at the very end, please. And then for the first time, no rhyme, no reason, I'm gonna put him on blast. For the first time ever, I saw my director of photography, my DOP, buy a book, Conversations with the Author, because this is, you can't live without this book. And I'm talking about a guy who usually just comes in and does his work, takes care of me, make sure everything is okay, and then he will ask me about books later. But then during this conversation, he was like, I'm going to get that book before the fail. It's that good. It is that good. This man was on exile. He went to prison and he escaped. And then, but the day that he got rearrested was so funny when he tells the story. He was steady chilling at his hiding place, and then somebody knocked on the door and asked for him, and then he was like, yeah, sure, I'll come to the door. Can't think it was the police. I'm gonna say it took him away for years. I'm laughing because the way that he tells the story now, I'm thinking about that. You have to get it. It's a collection again of short stories and poems, but beautifully written. He doesn't use capital letters. He doesn't use commas and full stops and things like that. He writes Kamkoyena Batlang because he says he is going to control the language. The language is not going to control him. Even when he autographed this book for me, he wrote my name in small letter. I've never seen my name written like this because I always insist on capital letter, please. But then that's the rule of the language. He doesn't care. He's like small letters all the way. And I'm like, kudos to you. Respect. Book 29, Orphaned. Let me tell you what my favorite part of this book was for the whole entire conversations. Like I said, book 29. So this means I've done 29 conversations. I've had 29 conversations with the authors. I've read 29 books for this, but then sometimes when I read a book I have to refer to others, especially if authors mention other things. So I've read more than 29 books for conversations with the author. My favorite, this one, is because Vanessa's family was there because she lost her grandmother, and that's what she writes about. But then her husband, her kids, and her sisters and her friends were all there. My family was there for the very first time. All of them, including the children. We did it. We are now on book number. It's a double bill. It is a double bill. Conversations with the author. 30. Got it 24. It's a February. See you then.